Welcome back to Arifureta Anime Review episode number 15. This one I'm discussing the 23rd episode of the anime, God's Apostle. This one covers the rest of chapter 3, and it covers the first 13 pages, actually more like the first about 14 pages of chapter 4. Yeah, the first half of this episode is mostly put the fight between Hajime and Noat. Yeah, it's a really good battle, and they keep surprisingly a lot in, but we don't start there. Like, normally, a lot of the episodes usually start with a cold opening. This is the first episode of the season that does not do that at all, because when we start the episode, what do we start with? A cold opening? No, we go straight to the title sequence. I'm like, I was kind of surprised to see that. As far as I can tell, I don't think it was cut from the broadcast. I thought it was kind of weird, the fact we start with that. We go from there, and then we go straight to the battle, which basically involves Hajime using a bunch of guns on Niat, ranging from a barrel gun, an elephant gun, the cross guns that basically float in the air. And we're kind of basically, with this episode, we are caught up to basically we start up the season with this particular fight, which is the thing we start up the season. We're finally up to this point. 10 episodes in, and of course, the fight ends with basically Hajime wrapping her up in this bind, thanks to a special light magic he uses to throw like a couple discs at her. And of course, she gets tied up, slices up one of her wings, blows a hole in her, like near her heart, and then she falls down. Yep. And don't worry, she's not gone for good. She actually does survive in a weird way. They don't go back to it just yet. Meanwhile, while this fight is going on, we see To try to escort Anko back to the palace. But Anko really wants to help. She uses her power to just bite her finger, draws a little something back of her hand. And then apparently, now you're probably thinking, did they cut the sequence where they, of course, the scene is like, oh, when you get there, they destroy the church. Also, I should point out, though, this episode was turned to the jazz music. That a lot of people, from what I can tell from an article I read, didn't like the jazz music at all in season 1. Here in this episode, first time I could think of, they actually used the jazz music. I didn't have a problem with the jazz music being used here. I know people would have, from what I read online, is that, from someone's opinion about it, they hated the fact that this particular music was very appropriate for the anime. And this thing was fine. I didn't have a problem with it at all. It's basically a signature tone for it. It is interesting, though, the fact they wait 10 episodes into the season to use that music. They use that during the Hajime note sequence. And apparently off screen we see Hajime arrives to where the church was, and the church has been destroyed. You're probably going to ask, was there a sequence in the book they cut here? No. This thing happened off screen. It was never shown in the book. Like, they bring it up. Of course, they do cut one thing here. They show off Anko's stats in the book. In the anime, there's no mention of it. She basically, it's explained she used her farming skill to sort of make methite, which is ignited with Tio's breath, destroying the church. And then they see this weird guy, who turns out he's actually one of the liberators. I believe his name was Owens, Yes, so he, basically, this guy guides him to a room. Yes, a room. Which apparently leads, well, basically has a magic circle, take him to another room. Basically means, yeah, they've beaten this labyrinth. Well, in order to get to this room, they had to beat 2 other labyrinths, which of course they did. And they gather up a ring. And of course they read a book, and then of course they leave. And that's the last scene for the episode. We go back to Suzune. I think that you're probably thinking, okay, now the opening, the prelude, to my knowledge, has not been adapted. Nope. It is roughly just a couple pages, but the prelude of this book here, from what I can tell, was not adapted for the anime. They did it for book 5, but not book 6 for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Because next sequence is actually sequence to actually start off chapter 4 with. We see Shizuku, where apparently she sleeps a very big bed, like one of these old 19th beds with the curtains. If you're going to ask me, have I seen these beds before? Yes, I have. I have seen these beds. Have I ever slept in one? The answer is no. I've never slept in one before. I've always slept in regular beds. I've never slept on these beds before. It'd be quite nice They were kind of weird, basically, to sleep in a bed like this. Apparently, these type of beds are mostly associated with basically aristocrats. Yes, that's from movies I've seen. And of course in real life, people who are rich usually slept in these type of beds. Usually, you can find these at historical sites. You can't exactly touch the bed. No, you cannot. Mainly, I think it's for sanitary reasons per se, and they don't want to contaminate a historical site. So you can look at the bed, you can take pictures with it, but you can't sit on it or touch it. I've seen I've seen a few museums, I've been to historic houses where they have these type of beds as far back as like 19th century. Usually, like I said, rich people have these beds. This bed being in the palace makes sense. And then you have Suzuko where she wakes up, takes her sword. Apparently, she sleeps with her sword, and she goes out and figures what the crash is. That crash extra chapter 4. And then three girls were sleeping next to her. Apparently, she gets her own room for some reason. It's not really clear exactly why. And of course, the maid, whose name is Nina, she refers to as Shizuku-san, but probably in the dub they refer to as Lady Shizuku. Probably because she's close with the hero, and probably also because she's probably, from what I can tell, probably best friends with the princess. And I'm surprised that they don't have, like, no, the way the anime presents it, like, in the book, that's not really stated how her eyes are. Because her eyes are very weird. Basically, what she's got is the void virus, basically, that they explored a couple episodes back here. And they bring along the hero on the party. Apparently, off screen, they tied the suit up in the middle of the night. And of course, oh yeah, where's Commander Milled? He's off doing business. Yeah, that business is him being dead. He got killed by a freaking angel. And of course, they got him in the center. And like, okay, they know about the fact that the cities are continuously attacked by demons. Then, of course, we have the vice commander take out a crystal ball. As a beacon, of course, it shines and blinds everybody, and apparently everybody's sliced down. Like, what in the world is going on here? Did this happen in the book? Yes, it did. Exactly the way shown in the anime. And then they have Nina, who comes completely out of nowhere. Like, Nina, what the heck is going on? So Shizuku saying this, and then she tries to hug her because she's looking kind of weird, and then she proceeds to, apparently off-screen, proceed to pull a knife around her back and stab her to the freaking spine. And apparently they proceed to put handcuffs on her while she's got a freaking knife in her back. I'm like, what the heck? And they reveal the mastermind. Who is behind this? It is, of course, it's revealed in the cover, this woman right here, Eri. Yes. Yeah, she's responsible for turning everybody evil. She's on a damn cover of this book. It's kind of weird, though, the fact that she's the only girl present on the cover of these books, and yet she's not a love interest of the main character. Because all the rest are, but she isn't. Not really, no. It is, oh yeah, I've basically been for you. And you're thinking, where the heck is the hero? Where's he all this? Yeah, they're probably going to explain this for our next episode. Hopefully they're going to pick up exactly where the scene left off, because there's a lot they could explore here. But wow, 13 pages in a span of about 5 minutes? Yeah, this this whole sequence, this last little bit what I just described with the heroes party, that was from the first 14 pages of chapter 4. I'm like, damn, and they keep pretty much, what I can tell, everything in. Like, nothing was altered here. Not that I could think of. No dialogue was cut. I think they cut a couple bits of dialogue from the fight between Hajima and Noat. Yeah. In case you're curious, though, where are the rest of the girls in the book? Like Shia and Yo? No. They're not in the chapter. So, that is actually not the part of the anime. That's the fall of the original light novel. That's the reason why they're not here, because they're not in the stuff they adapted from. So, it's not like, oh, the anime cut some important sequence involving you and Shia. They had their moment last episode, so they probably decided to do it here. I would say pacing-wise, the episode's done really well. And the thing is, the book continued from, like, you're probably thinking, like, okay, how much of, let's say, chapter uh, chapter 3, they adapted from. They went from 128 through, well, pretty much the end of the chapter, which was chapter 154. So that's roughly about 27 pages. So yes, but for most of this episode, this is basically what you get for the Hydra versus no fight, and you get roughly about this much for the last little bit of the episode, which not bad for this episode, covering that much of the manga, covering roughly about 40 pages. Yeah, 40 pages, not bad. And there's only about 3 episodes left. Do I think that the next episode finish up chapter 4? It's possible, to say the least. They might finish the chapter up. I do have this personal theory that I had this theory before the season started, because I heard about the season a while ago, that if they're going to do this season, they had to do more 13 episodes, and also they had to give these books plenty of breathing room. And from what I could tell so far, 10 episodes in, they've given these books plenty of breathing room. Yeah, if you think about it, it has. I mean, yes, the first 5 episodes did pretty much in a way, with exception of episode 3 of this season, they pretty much in a way just, how should I put this? They covered the epilogue from book 4. Yes, that's what they started with, and it was like this. And that's what they, not the case of episode 1 per se. 2 they did. Yes, they did. They pretty much covered this up until, they finished up, the epilogue with episode 4. That's where they finished it. 5, meanwhile, didn't officially wrap up until episode 7. So, we roughly covered the 5th book in just 7 episodes. That's how much time they had to cover one book, which, that doesn't happen very often. Not really, no. I mean, the first season, they adapted the first book in 5 episodes. And they had basically books 3 and 4 covered in 3 episodes. Book 2 was covered in 2 episodes. I gotta say, so far, they kept a lot of stuff in. I'd say the adaptation process is handled a lot better in this season. The music's definitely better. And also, here's also something interesting though about this. The fact that not only the adaptation is better, the pacing is better, the music's better, the monsters are actually improved from season 1. It felt as though this one they actually spent time. Now, I did hear when the season started they were going to do some new character designs. They need to update some characters a little bit per se, and the CGI they use here is actually a lot. It's 10 times better. It doesn't look bad, it looked terrible in season 1. Here it looked a lot better. I mean, I love the show. The weakness I have with the first season was not the music or the pacing, a little bit of the adaptation. It was mostly with the monsters. This season they did a much better job with that. But that's my opinion so far of the first 10 episodes. Okay, so excuse me. That's the episode review. Next one's going to be a comic corn. And if I get time to tonight, I'm going to work on Case of Thanatos. Okay, next video. Bye.